Your Royal Highness, this is such an honor. I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academician. My friend Sangedoji knows that. I'm not a writer. These I want to get off immediately. And so to pretend to be an author and a writer and a scholar is very, very difficult. Yet, I felt that I had to attempt to write something. It was during the COVID years. And tourism had taken a hit. And initially I thought, what if I could write something, and since I was former PM and since I'd done a TED talk, people might want to read what I write. And if they read what I write, then perhaps they would visit Bhutan. And I thought that that would be my contribution to Bhutan, post-COVID. And so I started thinking about how to introduce Bhutan to the world. And then as I started thinking about that, I reflected on my remarkable journey. And as Dean Sangye said, he says that my journey is reflective of our national journey as well. But my journey did not start in Dr. Graham's homes. My journey did not start when I was 5 years old. It started when I was born. And I was born to humble people of simple background, simple origins. My father's village was perhaps the second last village to be connected by road. This is besides the villages that will not be connected by road because of security concerns. My mother's village in Tshering was perhaps the last village to be connected by road. Shows how remote our villages are. My father's village and my mother's village. And my parents came from those villages of humble stock, simple people. I was born to them. And today as I serve, as I have this unique opportunity to serve as a Prime Minister, as an opposition leader, as a Member of Parliament, I had to think of how far our country has come. What opportunities our kings have given all of us to realize our respective potentials in the service of our great country. And so I decided to talk a little bit about myself, perhaps a little bit too much. The idea was to inspire our youth. And so there you have it. When I began this book during COVID, I was motivated by my intention to prime Bhutan to potential visitors to Bhutan, to prime international readers to visit Bhutan, to foster tourism in Bhutan. And therefore, what I write in the book about Bhutan, I mean, all of you are familiar with, you probably know more than me about our beloved country. And then the other audience I've been looking at, I've been thinking about was our youth, our students. I want them to know that behind the facade of this position, that is the Prime Minister, is an ordinary, is a simple person, a person who's fighting many demons day in and day out, much of which is related to confidence. I want a youth to know how I grew up, the challenges that I faced, and how we could persevere, and because our country offers opportunities. I want them to know that not everybody who's successful, as we may define it, not everybody who's successful comes from a well-established family, and that should never be a reason, an excuse to not work hard and not to aim high. As I was completing this book, His Majesty the King was working very hard on establishing his vision of the Gelufu Mindfulness City. As early as 2022, I had the great honor of hearing from His Majesty the King the Royal Vision. And by then, I was traveling the world, speaking about Bhutan, meeting people with the big objective of encouraging them to invest in Bhutan. And in particular, invest in this enlightened city, the mindfulness city. And so, in a nutshell, I wrote this book for our youth, to inspire them, for foreigners, to encourage them to visit Bhutan, to get them interested, and to potential investors, for them to hear about the Gelufu Mindfulness City. I spent a lot of time thinking and trying to write, but most of the writing was done by somebody else. I had a ghostwriter, so most of it is not my language. I write about myself growing up, about my family, and this is a message to our youth. I write about our country and gross national happiness. This is a message to potential visitors to Bhutan. I write about enlightened leadership as a tribute to our loving monarchs. There are many books on Bhutan, and I'm sure many, many more. And I hope that I can play a small role in getting more people to understand how beautiful and how unique our country is. Now I'm going to begin with a question to all of you. What is the most amazing thing about Bhutan? What do you consider to be the most amazing thing about Bhutan? This is going to be interactive, I'm afraid. Students, judges, ministers, faculty. Yes.
I think the most beautiful thing about Bhutan, or the most eye-catching thing about Bhutan is it's the way that the country is managed by both the government and His Majesty. The way that it handles the country not by monetary gain but then through happiness. That's what I think is most beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. So it's about governance and public service for the people, and our unique philosophy of gross national happiness. It's very unique. Anything else? Anything that's amazing? Yes?
I think the most beautiful thing about our country is our culture. The way our culture is put out, the way people are living, and the way we are still following our culture, I think is the most important thing.
That is amazing indeed. I do believe that we have a unique culture that is based on our spirituality, our religion, and our culture actually was not very unique. I believe that the culture that spread from Mongolia through Inner Mongolia, through Tibet, all across the Himalayas, including Bhutan, was by and large the same. What is absolutely amazing is that today we stand as a unique entity when it comes to our culture. We are the custodians of our absolutely unique culture. While others have changed, maybe even progressed, we here in Bhutan have held on to our culture, not just held on, but nurtured our culture, and that is amazing. Yes, sir.
I thought in Bhutan, His Majesty, that our beloved taxi monarchs, they successfully work for the people. That's good.
So what's amazing, what's absolutely unique about Bhutan is that we are blessed with benevolent kings, with extraordinary kings, with enlightened kings. Any others? Very quickly, yes.
Selfless leadership. That is a very unique thing. This is
Selfless leadership, and the selfless leadership in the form of our enlightened kings. And because of enlightened kings, we have an extraordinary governance system, part of which has allowed us to enjoy a unique culture. Taruchi Lapetui? Yes? Anna Pumdi? Yeah, yeah.
The most interesting thing about Bhutan is GNH, where happiness is given more importance than wealth.
Happiness is given more importance than wealth. Yes, but you will soon find out that you need money. So the idea is to understand happiness, understand GNH, and make sure you are successful in terms of wealth also. Mike Shubet Dhunsing Alabra Malam.
I think many of the things have been shared, but for me, the most beautiful thing or the amazing thing about Bhutan is that politically, economically, socially, and religiously, we are a country where we take care of each other, even in life and even in death. So I think that there is something very beautiful about Bhutan.
Thank you very much. I don't need to explain that. I don't need to add to that. Any more?
No.
Yeah? Nigi la chelu gechubi.
Thank you for the question, Your Excellency. For me, I think the most amazing part of Bhutan is its people. All the principles of governance, leadership, cultural preservation, they are principles that represent Bhutan as a whole, but all those principles exist within each and every Bhutanese, and for me, that is the most beautiful thing about Bhutan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I echo your sentiment. Philipsu na duge kapnalo, tashipsu duge kapnao, Judenpa, consultants duge kapnao, Konda Pia Bolalu, Kongidi Labnidu. Dubimida Jemi Daramida ese. Midana Taudara Shebe ese. Nachidi Hilera Korpie Bodalu, Kolu Gasoke, Kolu Lejimbe, Kolu Lejime Suabe, Danzitab Bemidi, Turugitan Lumemaba. Miguel Sosa Mindu, Miguel John Cane Mindu, Turudi Mapale Membe, Hilara Naja Gikechedi, the Jean de Maruchi do, se Anibole Tendigibe, the Nagisumi di Dera then. Digimase, we are just not the nice people, we are also capable people. The Ani Dugel Nacharagi Myonga the Rumuchigi Yani Asumi. Maben Mashi, Bera Bewachin, Duvimigi Cane Beshi, Besu se. Zora Bema Baby Cabangi se. The Kasanga Sombekalu Suchu Logmi Leguchi Goje, the Beni Gikokap Toki, the Aniga Magishui. Other Muchigi Anebe Sumishindu. Tangachari Giakapna Logmi Legul, Gutsudigibe, Chilo Chitong Gubja, Tukure Dunlu, Junjinagi Logmi Legal Gutsubme. Aninale Tatusumse Beodalu, long up chunga dun de Chilando imede. Anikin Nankinalu, Tarebodalu, Nachigi Logmi Legul Katichapti, that Tarebodalu Logmi Legul, design feasibility study Nacharigi Bear. Detailed project report ngacharegi design ngacharegi bear turu ngacharegi se construct ngacharegi bear tare operation the maintenance karegi ngacheboda ben the perabes be se hani ngachinami sami mi keche zam imbe ka chudu the yubigi the terribly me se shuni. Yes,
la karicha mari khatule tawchin ngachigi gyakhabti to sense rawarante kagi ole madu ane gi utip desugi kadevija jabna se ngarago chi dugia khablu nyara ngomnya ane de tendi shimina
Nachelu lokla medi diwadi lokla timidi ngani sisoni ngaragi jeru ngachoregi du ke khapti chungku chigel hapmi dia gari da tani pyagi nami sami chechebigi ke khapmi mit ototobe roz me thana desugi sago kam mindu mi desugi sago kam meple tendi gibe milope domdi bum dungel hapmi kopsugi ke khapim le tendi gibe jutoki theka brodolu kanemi in jemisu kahara khachi jemisu ngachare ki ge khapti rawa rasan imbi kha jungchong legden miselu te mise ta midelu te kidu zinami ngachare ki lam lise mixeldu yumi disu kahara khakongime ge khapra rawa mepdo chibewa chin te disudi ngachare ki te mapaledi yuru penmito te mapalere te 토브람 미수 세슈니 아니 배울 때인데 기베 나치 계약합 충고디 밀로페 뉴스 치게 합 미미 kop수첸기 계약합 주도 감 미미디 라와베 카데베 드디비나 하세 나디 남세미 할렙메 세슈니 다 라와베 나치르기 계약합디 루미디 리버기 마세 나치르기 계약합기 라와 란센디 로치와 로치 딘디 테도 아니 te tego mi di zora uti zamle tendi se shuni. It's because of leadership. Leader ram meba chin. Nachere ki gyakap di roging olu sinu. Digi pe di kate du te. Hema jaga gyakap se dolu gyakap chi inra me. Gyakap jibjay na ngabjay na de chi me. Kara ro Philip sugi te colonize be di ki be lok judalu gyakap ni be zo. Sri Lanka si wachin gyakap sum be zo dino. Dare bodalu te 아니 방글라데시 소소 유니티기 때 계약 시대지임에 현디 계약 중국 남민 사비 유대 땡 아저기 통사라 변 로기 원래 수시 된종인 로기 원래 수시 나저기 통사라이 아니소 아니 배울래 땡디기베 나저기 계약기 라와 란센디 단지 베위카 때 단지 배우 짬집의 멤버 로치와 로치 때 디디베 때 테미디 아니벤 간담이 이삼이 이층이 있으시니 때 같이레 땐디기 바네베 라와라 선디 로깅 올로 마시바 단지 베수비나 세워진 우티 잠레 땐디 우티 잠 세워달루 때 마저기 딩싱기 팜 샤두고 남기 구투디기 베 텔레카치쇼 마저기 게지 게 림전 수기메 디나티니레 나저기 진노 담바 명하다를 못지 두개 지바 들에 나들을 못지 줘. 콤 매바친 이미 있는 매매 쇼에 나저기 개사디 나저기 개갑디 나저기 라타노 아니 우티레 텐디 세슈니 대 우티레 텐디 젤미스야 대 나저기 개갑나나 미사미 펜토이 세슈니 우티 leadership is extremely important. And one of the why leaders are important is because they drive change. If there's no change that's required, you don't need a leader. If you have a so-called leader, but that so-called leader is not driving change, you don't have a leader. Leadership is all about moving forward, progress, moving to a better place. This is the essence of leadership. But there's a problem in that. Because change always requires sacrifice. And sacrifice is painful. Whether at your own personal level or at a community level, national level, any change for the better requires sacrifice. Sacrifice is painful. And leaders must navigate it. must ensure that the pain is minimum. If I drink alcohol, if I drink a bit more than I should, and I want to exercise self-leadership, I know that I should reduce and preferably remove consumption of alcohol. I know that. The change is from drinking excessively, damaging my body and damaging my family's prospects. I'm going to improve my body and improve the prospects for myself and for my family. That would require me to cut down and preferably eradicate drinking. That requires sacrifice. You're sacrificing it. You're sacrificing something that you're used to. You may even indeed love. Some of you know that I like physical fitness. Maybe I obsess about it a bit too much also, because I'm going advanced in my years, trying to fight my age. But physical fitness, if a person is sedentary and a doctor tells you, or you learn by yourself, that perhaps you're eating too much carbs, eating too much fat, you may get diabetic, you may get hypertensive, you may get high cholesterol levels leading to heart attacks, you might get a stroke, and you know that, okay, I need to take care of my body. I need to regulate my food, and there immediately you have to make sacrifices. To be aware of the food you eat, you're making sacrifices. But the biggest sacrifice comes when you take physical fitness seriously. Change requires sacrifice. But when you get there, the rewards are fulfilling. And leaders drive change. If you don't need to change, you need a manager to keep everything in status quo. In Bhutan, we've been blessed by enlightened leaders. Our kings, His Majesty the King, Dugir Shiba, enlightened leaders who have driven change for us. But what's unique about Bhutan again, that change did not involve sacrifice by the people. Think about it. In one generation, in my generation, our country has changed beyond recognition. When I was born, almost 60 years ago, life expectancy was barely in its 40s. We only had a handful of schools. And today, life expectancy is now in its 70s. Talk of change. And you think of the sacrifices that would have had to be made. Education. When I was born, literacy rates would have been in the teens among our youth. In the general population, it would have been much lower. Today, literacy rate among our youth is like 99%. Our economy has also grown. Our culture and traditions are all alive and well. We don't have to fear anxiety or corruption or insecurities. Our country is indeed an oasis of peace and stability, hope, optimism, and even the birth of democracy in Bhutan, especially the birth of democracy in Bhutan. When you have a total different change in governance system, this should have been accompanied by upheaval in society. But no, this change has also been achieved with the least bit of sacrifice, forget sacrifice, with the least bit of inconvenience to our people. This is what we have enjoyed in Bhutan. Our leaders have driven extraordinary change, and yet we have not had to sacrifice, make any sacrifices, if anything at all. We have enjoyed the sacrifices, the selfless sacrifices of our beloved monarchs. And so this is why I started thinking about leadership of our kings. But in Tshering, His Majesty the King paid tribute to the great fourth, His Majesty the fourth King. And he said that His Majesty the fourth King is an emanation of the Riksum Gemba, of Jamyang in his wisdom, Chana Doji in his courage, and Tshering in his compassion. An emanation of Riksum Gemba. That resonated with me. That stayed with me. And that's how I came upon what I call enlightened leadership. Enlightened leadership. Leadership driven by the attributes of the Riksum Gemba. Leadership driven by wisdom, the wisdom of Jamyang, the courage of Chana Doji, and the compassion of Tshering. Enlightened leaders serve not themselves, but others. Just as bodhisattvas, Jaju Sempas, as we are taught, choose to return to samsara rather than elevating themselves to nirvana, choose to return to samsara so that they can enlighten other beings. They chose selfless service over personal glory. Similarly, our beloved monarchs, our enlightened leaders, have been toiling, making personal sacrifices, providing selfless service, marked by the attributes of the Riksum Gemba. Now, why is wisdom important for leadership? If you don't know, if you don't know a better place that you want to take society to, you shouldn't be a leader. Knowing where you want to go, that is leadership. It begins with that. You must have wisdom. But wisdom by itself is not enough. You've got to implement what you know. That takes courage. Implementing what you know takes courage. It's too easy to know and not to do anything about it. More often than not, many people who know what should be done, they know the vision for the future, will not do anything but complain. They will criticize others. In fact, prevent others from doing the hard work, even though they know. And then there are people who know but refuse to act on it at all. I don't know if it serves any purpose in their quest for wisdom and knowledge, but it definitely will not serve society and our country at large. When you know the path, when you know the change that's required to get to the better place, the vision, then you must act on it. You have the wisdom, you must act on the wisdom. Sacrifices involved all over, particularly on the leader. Most people who are in positions of leadership actually don't need to change. They are happy with the status quo. They must make the self-sacrifice first and foremost in order to implement what they know to exercise leadership. It takes courage. And when you're on your way, it takes courage because everybody else will be criticizing you. May you remember all the people who know but don't act on what they know? It's so easy to criticize and attack. leaders become lightning rods. And that requires courage. But while you require courage, when the leader requires courage to implement their wisdom, they also need compassion. Because the people that they are trying to lead will have to make sacrifices. It's very comfortable, the status quo is very comfortable. Even if you're an alcoholic, even if you have a sedentary lifestyle, even if you are poor, the status quo is always comfortable. And to change requires sacrifice. That sacrifice is painful, and it is a leader's job to understand that pain, to exercise compassion. This is where we in Bhutan are extremely fortunate. Because our journey has been so painless that we have not had to make any sacrifices. All due to the compassion of our enlightened kings. So, you've got to have wisdom to be a leader. And you've got to implement that wisdom. So for that you need courage. And then you need to have compassion. And finally, you need to be driven by selfless service. It's got to be for a greater purpose. Otherwise, any of you who are in a position of leadership, don't waste your time fooling other people and fooling yourselves. It's got to be selfless, it's got to be service. And this is what I think of as leadership, enlightened leadership. And to me, enlightened leadership is a tribute to our beloved Fort, the great Fort, and His Majesty the King. One last note. When you grow up, you hear the saying, don't judge a book by the cover. This is a good example. I look at the book, I'll be very honest, no? And I say, oh wow. Even I'm impressed. Like that person out there, bald, like he has something important and insightful to say. The caption out there, Enlightened Leadership, with the penguin logo, and monarchy is mentioned there, the word inspiring is there, democracy is there. It looks like there's a lot of gems in there. But don't be fooled. Remember, it is mainly for our youth, hopefully to inspire them through some of my personal stories. It is mainly for foreigners who may not know about Bhutan. You know about Bhutan, so you don't need to read it. It's for them to give them just a little primer, very basic. And hopefully it is for some potential investors when they hear about Gelufu Mindfulness City. Gelufu Mindfulness City, that is the royal vision of an enlightened leader. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to welcome you to this afternoon's discussion with the Honorable Prime Minister of Bhutan, His Excellency Dasho Tshering, who has just shared his insights from his compelling book chronicling Bhutan's journey towards democratic governance and cross-national happiness. Lenchin's book is not solely a reflection of his tenure as a Prime Minister, but rather a narrative where a humble citizen who rises to lead the nation through the democratic process initiated by His Majesty the Fourth King at the height of his popularity. The book highlights Bhutan's enduring commitment to values-driven leadership. It traces the historic abdication of the throne by Tobgay at the peak of his popularity. This underscores how our leader should be in terms of ruling as a servant. Through these examples, Bhutan is portrayed as a nation that has redefined power, embracing stewardship and service over dominion. Let us now engage in a dialogue that connects Bhutan's past, present, and illuminated the personal journey of Prime Minister in his insight. It's my honor to invite all of you to join me in welcoming His Excellency the Prime Minister. So, His Excellency has preempted some of my questions. one of the important things that I thought, Your Excellency, how has been the experience of authorship influence your approach to public service? Because this has been written during the COVID, and probably this must have had the opportunity to reflect on your leadership as the approach that you have taken, and then the changes that could have occurred as an authoring of this.
Thank you, Sunam. Kita labra labgo akin kuch kar timidile himel hapura. Kechok, timgi kechok. Tiru tamsami lejimbe tishimichime. Taretu atilenna Sunam michika benigi kokaptamiji kisemgai. I explained earlier, I'm not an author. I'm not a writer, I'm not a scholar. But in coming up, thinking about this book, one of the biggest benefits to me is that I've got to do some soul searching about myself, my position, and how I see myself as a public servant. And so the lessons I learned while thinking about this book, I hope will serve me well during this tenure.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'll be opening the question to public, so I would like to request if anybody is having questions, you can get ready. In the meantime, I'll be asking a few more questions. And one, I thought on GMC, which Your Excellency has actually presented in the chapter 11 and also in the earlier, in terms of His Majesty's vision. His Majesty has given us, I think, 40 years in total, with a 10 years transformation period. And looking at GMC, I personally feel that this is going to be the biggest opportunity that any Bhutanese could dream of. We don't have to travel anywhere to become a global leader. The opportunities at the right, just at our doorstep. So in this aspect, as you have already mentioned about sacrificing as a leader, and we do have a huge number of young leaders who will be coming, and we already have leaders who are already into system. And so probably I would like to ask Your Excellency that what do you think should change among the current leadership in terms of being able to achieve what His Majesty has already envisioned and worked so hard in terms of what we are at today? So today, let's say, we are in the status quo, and what change do you think, or what sacrifices that we need to do so that we could achieve the benefits of GMC?
We should be thinking, this is a problem in Bhutan. When we see our beloved king serve, we think of opportunities for ourselves. And I think it's time to start thinking of our responsibilities. Not just, you use the word opportunity and then you use the word benefit also. Not just opportunities and benefits, but what are our responsibilities to realize the vision of our country and the royal vision of GMC. And so I think more of us need to spend a little more time thinking of our responsibilities. We are conditioned to think of benefits and opportunities because we have not had to make sacrifices. Because our progress has been minimally painful, if painful at all. I think it has been enjoyable for all of us. From our parents' days till now, this change in society and our country has been enjoyable. And we are programmed that way now. Instead of thinking of our responsibilities, thinking of benefits and opportunities. And this is extending to Gelifu Mindfulness City. When you have His Majesty the King making tremendous sacrifices. Of all the people in this land, His Majesty the King needs Gelifu Mindfulness City the least. It's all of us that require the Gelifu Mindfulness City to succeed. Yet He is the one who's working day in and day out and who's making personal sacrifices. So the question for all of us, and you posed it to our leaders, the question is, what sacrifices are you making in general? What sacrifices are you making? Are you making more international friends? Are you working harder to make friends? Are you working harder to invite attention? Are you working harder to prepare our own people for the Gelifu Mindfulness City? Are you working even harder to ensure that His Majesty has the resources that may be required, at least the human resources that may be required that will be required to realize the royal vision of the Gilfu Mindfulness City. What is our responsibility as leaders? And we must implement with a sense of duty, with a sense of urgency, those responsibilities. So overall, what must be done? All we've got to do is listen to His Majesty the King and to fulfill your own respective responsibilities. Gilfu Mindfulness City will allow our youth and Bhutanese at large to stay, work and make a future in our country instead of going abroad. Now, many of our youth are going abroad. Good. They're gaining skills, experience. Good. They're saving some money abroad. Good. But my question is, if we go abroad, who is going to stay behind and build our own country? Are we comfortable enjoying the benefits of a country and a society that has already built on the hard work and labor of other people at the expense of leaving our own country behind? So for leaders, we've got to work hard, we've got to understand the vision and with an urgent sense of duty, implement our responsibility. But for our people at large, we've got to take on the responsibility of nation building. We cannot leave it to His Majesty the King alone.
Before I open for the public questions, I have one more. This is on a more of a lighter note. You have described...
sorry, it was too serious.
So you have described that drama has transformed you from an introverted student to someone comfortable stage. I think His Excellency is not just comfortable, he's one of the, greatest orators that we can proudly say as a Bhutanese. And so we wanted to maybe, if Your Excellency could share us that how this drama has actually transformed you to become one of the greatest orators on the public stage. You may not be an academic or a scholar, but I think definitely you are a great
orator. Greatest Fajada orator. The drama Beodalu Tatue Yasawinga. Tatue Naduvi. The stage now Bodalu. Namasami Yasawme. Well, the two things. What drama allows you to do is prepare. Because you've got to mug up everything. You've got to memorize the script. And then when performing, you're not yourself. So you don't need to be nervous. You don't need to lack confidence. You don't need to feel awkward because you are somebody else. And so I think that's very good training for public speaking or for public appearances. So drama provides very good training. If drama doesn't provide very good training, I've learned a very good lesson, which is you have to fake it until you make it. I'm still trying to make it.
That's Your Excellency. I think some of us already must have seen Lin Chin's drama dialogue which was shared on social media. I think that itself speaks how good His Excellency in terms of memorizing and being able to recite the entire dialogue. With this, I would like to open the questions from the floor.